What's up, guys? Welcome back. So today I was browsing through my YouTube page and I saw this interview with Dan Bazarian, and I'm a fan of Dan Bazarian. So the interviewer was from this channel called Tier One Podcast, okay, and he said some very nasty thing about Islam and about Muslim as a whole. So I'm gonna make it my mission today to debunk him. Welcome back to the Batman Podcast. Alrighty, let's get started. So today I am going to debunk this guy from Tier 1 Podcast. His name is Brent something. I'm not sure what his last name is, but I am trying my best to keep myself calm. I don't know whether I will be able to do that or not, and I'll probably say a couple of controversial things on this video, okay? And I don't know, I'm nervous to see people's reaction about it. Whether this will go viral or not, whether that's going to be good or not, I don't know. But I'm just going to say what I have to say and see how it goes, okay? So I'm going to start by playing you this clip from this Tier 1 podcast channel, okay? And then as per usual, I will provide my commentary later, okay? So let's get started.
That I'm not. And I already told you in a weird way, it's almost an unfair argument. My I don't even want to say allegiance, but if you want to call the word allegiance to Israel, really has more to do with the interpretation of the Bible and the Old Testament, and for them to say, bless those who bless you and curse you those who curse you, and because the Bible as a whole and Christianity as a whole is true, I don't think it's a coincidence that America has been so blessed. And why are they blessed? Who is Israel's biggest ally? We are.
But have we been blessed, though? Because since Israel's
we're the greatest country in the world.
Well, but when we were in the 40s, too.
We could be better. We could be better.
But since our support of Israel, we've had this emergence of transgenderism, of homosexuality, the estrogenifying of the American man, the attack on whiteness, the attack on masculinity. We've had this feminism being pushed. Is America better today than it was in the 40s?
That's
morally, is it better.
Morally, no.
And we've been blessing Israel since the 40s. So I'm just saying, like,
for sure,
we're actually maybe the fifth. I guess 48, whatever. So let's just say 1950. I think since 1950, America's had a moral decline. So have we been blessed since we've been blessing Israel?
Are we the greatest nation in the world?
With AI, you can create
any character you want.
Real life,
fantasy, sci-fi,
even.
In what sense? Morally, no.
You're still living here.
Well, because I like guns. It's not all about morals for me, and I'm also an American, right? I have allegiance. Listen.
Oh boy, where do we start? I guess we can start by saying that the video is so much longer than that. They would go on and on and on talking about Judaism and Islam and so on, okay? So I don't want to show the entire clip because I feel like it's not fair to him. People take a lot of time to do this kind of content and so on, and I respect that. So if you want to watch the entire video, go to his channel. It's called Tier 1 Podcast, okay? Anyway, the first thing I want to address is when he asked what we call Dan Bazarian, he asked him. First of all, he was saying that this is the greatest country in the world and blah, blah, blah. Fair enough, okay, fine. Every people in the world, they feel a certain connection to their country. They're very nationalistic and so on. They always want to view their country as the best in the world. But, okay, I'm not gonna criticize you for that, okay? But let us look at the facts, okay? If we look at the facts, we look at the homicide rate, we look at the infrastructure, we look at open borders. Do you seriously consider America the greatest country in the world? I have a friend in America. a lot of friends in America, by the way. And they've been complaining to me how there are homeless people in the streets, people are doing drugs on the streets, like it's nothing. And you seriously consider that the greatest country in the world? I mean, like, that's objective, okay? If you feel that way, whatever, okay? I'm not gonna go too hard on that. But at the same time, even if it's true, it's the greatest country in the world, okay? And you were asking Dan Bilzerian, why are you staying here? When he said that, well, that's debatable whether America is the greatest country in the world or not. And he asked Dan Bilzerian, well, why do you choose to stay here? I mean, like, obviously Gaza is probably the worst place in the world right now, but many people choose to stay there. And there are many people who, even given the opportunity to live abroad, they choose not to, because that's their homeland. There are plenty of people in Africa who is living poverty level, okay, hungry, poor, but they still choose to stay there because that's their country. Dan Bilzerian choosing to stay in America doesn't mean that because America is the greatest country in the world, okay? Maybe, I don't know, maybe because Dan Bilzerian loves America, because that's the place where he was raised. Maybe because he recognized where he is, he recognized who he is. He is an American. That is his culture. He never want to go anywhere else. He probably want to visit, and he did visit a lot of countries. But it's his homeland. It is the place where he was born and raised. He wants to stay there. So what's the issue? That doesn't mean you are the best country in the world, okay? And then when he goes on and saying, oh, but based on the Bible, those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed, right? Something like that. Well, do you honestly consider that true? I mean, like, just by the fact, the statistic that I was mentioning right now, the crime rates and the infrastructure and so on, do you honestly still think that is true? And put that fact aside for a moment, okay? What has blessing Israel done to your country? How many wars have you gone to the Middle East? No, how many wars have you gone, period, on behalf of Israel? How many lives should be sacrificed in order for you to protect Israel? And you consider that blessing? I don't know, it's just my common sense is that God don't bless you for going to war, okay? Especially when you're defining a pariah state like Israel, okay? And speaking of that, based on your Bible alone, okay, they were talking about Israelites and so on, okay? What makes you think the current Israelis are the Israelites from the Bible? I mean, like, they don't look Arabs to me. Semitic people are of Arab descent, by the way, okay? They look like they are Europeans. Their features alone tells you they are not Semitic people. And by the way, who are these people? Who are the current Israelis, and where do they came from, okay? They are Khazarian people, okay? They came from the Khazarian Empire, okay? They converted into Judaism around the 8th century, okay? And prior to conversion, who were their god, okay? They practiced Tangrism. And who were their god? It was rumored, I don't know, this is rumors, don't come after me. But who were their gods? Their god was Moloch, okay? Again, don't come after me, okay? I'm just reading what is out there on the internet, okay? Their god was Moloch, okay? And they practice human sacrifice, especially children, okay? Now, there are people who are saying, historians and so on, who are saying that There are no historical basis, there's no records for this that confirms there are activities of human sacrifice in the Khazarian Empire and blah blah blah, okay? But we're going to get to that. I'm going to address that point later on, okay? But anyway, come the 8th century, because they were causing so much havoc in the Eastern European region, Eastern European and Central Asian region, they were pressured by multiple empires at that time, okay? And the Kievan Rus, the Russian Empire, they would end up pressuring these Khazarian people to convert to either three of the Abrahamic religion, and they end up choosing Judaism, okay? So they weren't the Israelite from the Bible to begin with. And there were studies shown that they don't have Semitic DNA. Meanwhile, the Palestinians have Semitic DNAs. 80% of Palestinians have Semitic DNAs, while 90%, something like that, 80-90% of current Israelis doesn't have Semitic DNA. So if you truly care about following the instruction from the Bible, bless Israel, bless Israelites, then you might as well bless the Palestinians. They are the real Israelites, okay? If you bless the current Ashkenazi Jews, you're blessing Satan's chosen people. You're not blessing the Israelites, okay? Because like I say, their God was who? Moloch, okay? And I know people are going to say that's debatable and so on, but let us see the pattern, okay? You see various paintings in Europe where they depict Jewish people sacrificing children, okay? Various paintings. Let us look at what are they currently doing. Have you heard about the Epstein files? Child sacrifice? Satan worshipping? What do you think that is all about? So you see the connection. They never left their religion. They are just a crypto Jays. When the truth is they're not even real Jays, okay? So there you go. So if you think that you're blessing the real Israelite from the Bible when you go and defend Israel right now, you're actually, again, just a conclusion, opinion, not a fact, okay? You're probably worshipping the people who practice Moloch and probably still, to this day, practice the same thing. The pattern are all there. And then he keeps on saying Islam is violent, okay? Now, he was saying in the Quran that there are verses that encourage Muslims to be violent towards non-Muslims, right? Like, first of all, I mean, like, it depends on your interpretation, but whatever, okay? And he would go on and say, that doesn't exist in the Christian religion. It doesn't exist in the Bible. Oh, really, Brent? Really? I'm just going to read you just one verse from the Bible, okay? But there are plenty more I can recite, okay? But for now, I just talk about one verse, okay? I am going to recite Luke 19:27, okay? But those enemies of mine who did not want me to be king over them, bring them here and kill them in front of me. What is that, Brent? Now, I know, lots of Christians are going to say, well, it is because of this and that. There are justification, there are probably a misinterpretation and so on. Well, I can say the same thing about the Quran, okay? So what's your point? When you say, oh, Islam is violent, but You can't say the same thing for the Christian. You can't say the Quran is violent but the Bible is peace. No, I can give you a lot more verse. Okay. Now I'm not here to judge. Okay. Believe in what you believe in. As far as I'm concerned, be the best Christian. Okay. Really don't care. Okay. But I'm really sick of this Christian keep on pointing, oh, the Quran is so violent and so on, so dangerous. While they're turning a blind eye to their own Bible, okay? I'm so sick of it. And then back to those who bless Israel will be blessed, okay? I mean, like, how many wars are you going to have to fight on behalf of Israel? Obviously, Iraq, Libya, and Syria are not what we call proxy wars on behalf of Israel. Now they're going after Iran. How many countries do you need to go to war to until enough will be enough? And not to mention Ukraine. I mean, like, it's so obvious it was the Jays who won that. Okay. I did a video on this. Go and check it on my channel. I did a video on Ukraine is one big land grab operation, okay? Basically, what the video was saying is that there is this interview with this guy named Igor Berkut, okay? And he was a politician in Ukraine, supposedly a billionaire politician in Ukraine. This was prior to the war, okay? And he predicted that this was going to happen, and he actually wants this Ukraine war to happen. Because you know why? It is all a plan. Basically, Russia is clearing up the land in Ukraine, southern Ukraine especially. Israel and Iran is going to war and probably will drag the entire Muslim world to go to war with Israel. I don't think America can even survive, help Israel at this point. Israel is going down, okay? And that's exactly what they want. Because you know what? They want to create a new project. The new Heavenly Jerusalem project. Go and check it. It's online. Go and look at it on Rumble. I don't know if it's still available on YouTube or not. But last time I checked, there's still plenty of that video on Rumble. It's called the New Heavenly Jerusalem Project. The name of the politician is Igor Berkut, Igorberkut. And then when you look at how these corporations are buying up lands in Ukraine, they're gobbling up land in Ukraine. I mean, like, at a time of war, when this land is like useless, they don't have any value at all. Why do you want to buy lands? And they're using loan to buy these lands. And do you know who is the lender? Well, some of this company, they lend from the European banks. I'm not sure, I forgot the name of the European banks, but there are several European Union owned bank, okay? So it's really like a government owned bank, okay? Foreign government owned bank. I don't know, what can you consider? The European Union is not a government, but you get what I mean, okay? And there's a clause in this loan that if these people fail to pay them the loan, oh, I forgot to mention, while it is said in Ukrainian law that only Ukrainian can own can own the lands, Ukrainian lands, it doesn't there is a loophole, okay, in this law. Go and watch my video. I explain it in details, okay? There is a loophole in this law, okay? So it doesn't mean that foreigners cannot own Ukrainian lands at all, okay? There is a loophole, okay? And I don't want to go into detail. You can watch my videos, okay? But basically, what is happening right now, the new Heavenly Jerusalem program is on track. And you also need to watch the Ego Berkeley interview, because what he is saying in the interview is like absolutely what is happening in Ukraine right now. And by the way, people are trying to make like Vladimir Putin is a hero or something like that. No, he's not, okay? He has many J-ish connections. That's the bitter truth, okay? And I'm not even convinced that Iran really is fighting Israel at this point. I feel like the world is a stage, okay? The world government has already been infiltrated by Satanists. Same thing as organized religion. They all have been infiltrated by Satanists. Read about the Donme Jays. Read about Sabbatai Zevi. Read about Frankism in Europe, okay? Religion has been infiltrated by Satanists long time ago. And then Dan Bilzerian did raise an interesting point, okay? Because this guy was saying, Dan Bilzerian was saying that, oh, Jews invented transgenderism and so on, blah, 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 okay? And then this guy was saying, well, that was liberal talking points. So basically he's blaming liberals. But Dan Bilzerian would go on and say, yeah, but who owns the media? It's the Jays. They are the one who are pushing these talking points. So, and then there's also one part where they were saying that, like Jays are very successful and so on because they are hardworking and so on. No, they're not, okay? I mean, like, they're hardworking, but they're not brilliant compared to other people. Candace Owens made a very good point, okay, recently. She was saying they're not smarter than other people. They are more evil than other people, okay? And when you do evil stuff, unfortunately, you get rewarded by Satan. I'm not saying evil stupid, okay? They're doing evil smart, okay? They're more evil smart than other people. It's just a fact, okay? And some of them are not even that intelligent, like Barry Weiss. If you're not aware of her, she was like a small-time podcaster. She received, I don't know, she probably have like 5,000 views per video or something like that. But then suddenly, there was this company, I forgot the name of that company, but they bought her podcast for like hundreds of millions of dollars. This small-time YouTube podcaster. Like, are you kidding me? So, as Candace was saying, it's not really that they are more intelligent, it's Midas touch. And speaking of Barry Weiss, you're probably not a fan of the migration crisis in America. Well, according to Barry Weiss herself, I'm going to Google the quote, 1 second. Alright, I found it. This is the quote, okay? This is what she said about migration to America, okay? The Jewish connection to the refugee is not a conspiracy. That's something that we're very, very proud of. The organization that Robert Bowers was constantly calling out is an organization called HIAS, which brought people including Sergey Brin to this country. It started in the 1880s to bring Jews who were fleeing the pogroms of Eastern Europe. Now they help Jews and non-Jews all over the world fleeing persecution. I met a man in Arizona on Sunday, a Jew from Cairo who was helped out of Egypt following the 1967 war. This synagogue exemplified those values, participate in something called Refugee Shabbat. Okay, that's it. Okay, another thing. There's no weaker category in our society than the refugee, and we're really, really proud of that. So they're destroying your country. The KILLING Christians in Ukraine, but still, I know you're probably thinking that you're still gonna have to bless Israel, right? Get out of here, buddy. Like, seriously. Like, stand up for your Ukrainian Christian brothers and sisters. You can't even tweet against it. You can't even criticize that. And stand up for your own fellow countrymen, okay? Americans who are being invaded by refugees. And speaking of refugees in Europe, the threat of Islamists and so on. If you guys hate refugees from the Middle East so much, why do you keep on bombing their countries? What was the result going to be, okay, when you bomb these countries? And don't come to me and say that, well, why don't these Muslim countries take some of these refugees? Well, they do. Turkey already take 4 million refugees from Syria, Iraq. Saudi Arabia already taken millions. Jordan already taken 3 million Palestinians. Half of Jordanian population are Palestinians. How many more are you going to have to take? How many more refugees do you expect them to take? Tens of millions of refugees live in Saudi Arabia. No, sorry, in the Middle East, okay? Not Saudi Arabia, in the Middle East, okay? And their population is smaller than European population as a whole. And the Middle East is also much poorer than European countries. And this is all thanks to you bombing other countries. And now they have to take these refugees, okay? No, if you bomb those countries, you're gonna have to take the refugees. In fact, since America is the biggest terrorist in the Middle East, they should take the majority of these refugees, okay? I do think that people who bomb these countries, they do have the responsibility to house these people, okay? Especially when you go to war with countries like Iraq, strictly based on lies. Where was the weapons of mass destruction? I mean, like, if you really feel like Islam is a threat, then stop going to war on behalf of Israel, okay? They will leave you alone. Do remember in the 70s, 80s, 90s, there were no large-scale immigration to Europe, large-scale Middle Eastern migration to Europe. It all started after the global war on terror and then non-stop war with the Middle Eastern country. All because Benjamin Netanyahu goes to Congress and demand Americans to fight these 5 countries on their behalf. How does that turn out? And those who bless Israel will be blessed. How many trillions already you have spent on Israel's war? You can't even repair some bridges. What was that bridge that collapsed? Was it Baltimore Bridge? I forgot. When people has been warning the state government that this bridge needed repair and it was ignored, I'm assuming because a lack of budget, those trillions spent on Israel, probably just me, just me thinking that probably that money could go to repairing that bridge before it collapsed and save lives. But that's just me. Why do I know, right? And also, I am going to say something quite controversial here. I'm scared to say it, but you know what? This must be said because very few people talk about this, okay? I know he is going to say, oh, Prophet Muhammad is a pedophile and so on. He married Aishah, who was 9 years old. Okay. First of all, what makes you think that Aishah was 9 years old at the time of marriage to Prophet Muhammad? Based on what? You probably don't know where you get the sources, right? You're just saying it out of thin air like that. Okay. There's a thing called hadith. Okay. Hadith is a historical records. Okay. And these are verbal historical records passed on from generations to generations. Okay. Now, the thing with historical records is always up for debate. Okay. Even written historical records are up for debate, let alone verbal historical records. Okay. Now, before I know some Muslim are going to say that I am a Shia agent and whatever, I'm not a Shia agent, I'm not a Sunni agent, I'm not Shia, I'm not Sunni, okay? I'm a Muslim, period, and that's where it stops, okay? Because I find that this whole Shia versus Sunni thing is so stupid to begin with. The Quran is simple. It's so simple, okay? You don't need some Sunni Imam, Shia Imam to interpret it for you, okay? God gave you brain for a reason. Use your brain when you read the Quran, okay? You don't need to put yourself in a group, okay? It's group thinking. The Quran is very individualistic, okay? Read it. What I don't like about this Sunni Shia thing is that it's very tribal. We don't need tribalism, we need individualism, okay? Yes, we should help people and so on, but do not have group thinking, okay? Helping people and so on, that's fine, okay? But group thinking, I don't like it. Group thinking always leads to war. And it's not just Islam. Even the Christian have how many wars? Communism and capitalism. Again, they go to wars. When you have group thinking, that's the problem you create, okay? You always feels like this one is better, this one is better. Anyway, back to hadith, okay? So to me, hadith is up for debate, you know? It's a historical record at the end of the day, okay? So what is the hadith that was saying the age of Aishah, okay? So I'm going to read it to you, okay? This is the hadith, okay? Sunan An-Nasa I 3379. The messenger of Allah married me when I was 6 and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9, okay? So I'm going to read a little bit of this guy's commentary. By the way, I'm going to post this Reddit thread in the comment section below. You guys can check it. This is a very interesting thread, worth checking, okay? So this guy or girl, I'm not sure whether this person is a man or woman. So the commentary was saying a few narrations mentioned that the consummation happened in Medina after the migration from Mecca, while the other narrations mentioned that the marriage and consummation happened after the migration to Medina. There are even variations in age in which she approximates her age to be between 6, 7 or 9 old during marriage and then consummation 3 years later. So basically she was engaged at the age of 6, okay, and she was married at the age of 9, okay. But the problem is back then women in Arabia, they started counting their age once they reach puberty, okay. So it's just their culture, okay. They start calculating their age once they reach puberty. So if she was consummated or basically making the marriage official, okay, at the age of 9 years old. So let's say if she reached her puberty at 9 years old, okay. So she said she was married at the age of 6 and consummated the marriage with me when I was 9. So 9 plus 6, at the very earliest, she's 15 years old and consummated at the age of 18. Okay. So, okay, you might not believe me. There are this calculating age starting from the age starting from the time of puberty, debatable and so on. Okay, fine. Let us move to the next hadith. Okay. So another hadith is that Sahih Bukhari 4993. Aishah was saying, while I was a young girl, Jariyah in Arabic, of playing age, the following verse was revealed in Mecca to Muhammad. Nay, but the hour is their appointed time for their full compense, and the hour will be more grievous and more bitter. Okay. Chapter 54 was revealed around 4 to 5 years after the first revelation of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in 610 AD. So around 615 to 614 to 615 AD. Okay. Chapter 54 was revealed around 4 to 5 years after the first revelation of the Prophet Muhammad in 610 AD. So this should be around 614 to 615 AD. If Aishah was married to the Prophet at the age of 6, at 624 AD, which is the consensus is that she married Prophet Muhammad at around 622 to 624 AD. Okay, it's not even debatable. Then she would not have been even born at the time of the revelation of this verse, because let's backtrack. Okay, so this revelation was 614 to 615 AD. Married at the age of 624, married at the age of 6 at 624 AD, which means she was probably born 618 according to the official narrative. Okay, so 618 is after 614 to 615 AD. I'm going to show you the screenshot of this. Okay, so how can she remember something when she wasn't even born? And let's put this into perspective. Okay, so this event that the Prophet Muhammad received this verse was revealed, was around 614 to 615 AD. And Aishah herself says that she was of playing age. Okay, and she remembers this. Okay, so if she remembers this and she was of playing age, she couldn't have been a baby during 614 to 615 AD, right? I mean, like, if she's a baby, it's impossible she could remember anything. At the very least, maybe she's 4 years old. So 4 years old, 614 AD minus 4, 610 AD. 610 AD, married at 624 AD. She was probably born 614 AD, marriage at 624 AD. So that alone means at least she must have been 14 years old. And the marriage was consummated at 17 years old. Okay. And then there's another thing. Sahih Bukhari 2297. Since I reached the age, this is also from Aishah, okay? Since I reached the age where I could remember things, I have seen my parents worshipping according to the right faith of Islam. Not a single day passed, but our messengers visited us both in the morning and in the evening. When the Muslims were persecuted, Abu Bakr set out for Ethiopia as an emigrant. Generally, this is the commentary provided by this person. Generally, children begin to remember and understand more complex things like the religion of their parents at around 5 to 6 years old. If we assume that she was born around 4 to 6 years old after Islam, then the statement of Aisha narrating her parents being Muslim at the age of her awareness and memory is useless to recount, as it is well known that Abu Bakr was one of the early converts to Islam. If this were the case, then she would have obviously have begun having memories and awareness while her parents were Muslim. However, If she was born 4 years before Islam, then this statement is necessary as it shows that she was born before Islam, but her awareness and memory began while her parents were Muslim as opposed to any other religion at that time. Secondly, Aishah recalls the migration to Ethiopia, which happened 615 AD, 5 years after the revelation of Islam. Even if she was married at 9 years old at 624 AD, then she would have been a few months to 1 year old at the time of migration to Ethiopia, which is not possible as she remembers it happening. Once again, this is proof that she was 6 or 9 at the time of marriage, as should would have been at least 5 years or older during 615 AD. There you go. And then there's also this one is not a strong statement. There's also, now this is written historical facts, okay? According to other historical sources such as Al-Nawawi, Ibn Kathir, and Ibn Hisham, Asma, who is Aishah's sisters, okay, was 10 years older than Aishah. She died at the age of 100 around 73. She died at the age of 100 around 695 AD. Asma was born in 596 AD and was 14 years old when Islam began. Aishah would have been 4 when Islam began in 610 AD. This means Aishah would have been born in 606 AD. You get it? So her sister died at the age of 100 around 695 AD, right? Asma was born in 596 AD and was 14 years old when Islam began, okay, which is in 610 AD, okay. Asma was 10 years older than Aishah, so Aishah would probably have been born in 606 AD. At the time of migration, Asma would have been around 27 years old. If Aishah was 10 years younger than her, then she would have been around 17 years old. By the way, 1 second, at the time of migration, Asma would have been 27. Yeah, because Aishah married to Prophet Muhammad after the completion of the migration, okay. So Asma would have been 27 years old. If Aisha was 10 years younger than her, then she would have been around 17 years old during the migration and thus 18 years old during the marriage a year later, okay? 18 years old. Or if other narrations are correct, then she would have been 14 to 15 when she was married and 17 to 18 when the marriage was consummated a year after the migration in 623 AD. So, there you go. And let's not forget that there were rumors, okay? Rumors, not a fact. Don't know whether this is legit or not, okay? But it's worth checking. It was rumored that this person that they refer to, who how do we say, narrate the hadith, Hisham ibn Urwah, when he narrated this hadith about Aishah's age, there were accusations of him being senile or suffering from memory loss. One of the critics, Abu al-Hasan ibn al-Qattan, stated that Hisham became confused or his memory diminished in his later years. Other accounts suggest his narrative from Iraq were less reliable and those from his time in Medina. Okay. So this debate is most prominent in discussions surrounding the age of Aishah at the time of her marriage. Okay. So we rely on that one specific hadith that states her age. Okay. And that hadith was rumored to be coming from someone who is suffering from memory loss. Meanwhile, we also ignore the other hadith and historical records Aishah is not 9 years, was not 9 years old at the age of marriage, okay? I don't believe it. And also, I'm just going to read to you one of the to those Muslim who are hell bent on um, supporting this hadith and say that it's legit and Aisha really was 9 years old. I'm just going to say to you, are you kidding me? Have you read the Quran at all? Have you read Surah An-Nisa 4.6? Let me read it to you in case you forgot, okay? And test the orphans in their abilities until they reach marriageable age. Then if you perceive them if you perceive in them sound judgment, release their property to them. Pay attention to and test the orphans in their abilities until they reach marriageable age. Then if you perceive them in sound judgment, release their property to them. What does it mean by marriageable age? It means having sound judgment to manage their, based on this verse, to manage their abilities to manage their properties, contracts, and so on. Okay, so 9 years old does not have sound judgment. Okay, 9 years old does not understand how to handle their own properties, how to read contracts. Okay, I'm 35 years old and I can't even understand contracts. I probably have to hire a lawyer to translate to me what does this contracts mean. And probably even then I wouldn't fully understand it, let alone a 9 years old girl. Like, are you kidding me? So the Quran itself is saying that you need to reach an age of sound judgment in order for you to get married, right? So what? To all you Muslims who are hellbent on supporting the legitimacy of her age being 9, what is your comment on this? I'm really curious, okay? I think this is the problem I have with Muslims these days, okay? It's like we're not allowed to use our brains anymore, okay? We listen to whatever the Imam says, okay? If you don't know, don't know about something, you ask the Imam. Okay, fine, okay? I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm not saying it's wrong to go to the mosque and listen to some sermons made by the Imams and so on. You can listen to them if you want to, but when you listen to their what we call when you listen to their sermons and so on, use your brain. Always question their narrative, okay? Does this make sense or not? Where in the Quran does it say this? And what actually the Quran means about that? Don't take everything at face value. As I was saying, I couldn't be more convinced that the world today, all the organized religion has been infiltrated by Satanism, okay? So, and please lah, I feel like this whole Sunni Shia thing is so stupid to begin with, and it's not really restricted to just the Muslim, even the Christian, the whole Catholicism and Protestantism and evangelism and so on. It's so stupid, okay? Don't put yourself into a group, okay? Read the Bible, read the Quran. God give you brain for a reason, okay? Make your own sound judgment. You can listen to the Imam, you can listen to the priest, okay? But don't take everything at face value. Read it. Somebody like Brent from Tier 1 podcast probably never even reads his own Bible because he was saying there's no such thing as violent verses in the Bible. Give me a break, okay? And he said he can't say the same thing about Islam, about the Quran. I can go on and on if I want to, okay? But you know what? I don't care, okay? Be the best Christian, as I was saying, okay? I actually think that good people are going to heaven anyway, regardless if you are Muslim or not. because God is fair, okay? Not everybody is born Muslims. Some people are born into different religion, okay? Then it's not fair for you to say, oh, they're going to hell. Well, they were raised in that religion, you know. To me, God is fair. God will send good people to heaven. That's just my opinion, okay? But at the end of the day, I'm just gonna say I am not God, okay? So I'm just gonna let God do his own work, okay? What I'm trying to say is don't be too judgmental of either religion, okay? So at the end of the day, only God knows whether you're going to heaven or hell, you know? At the end of the day, I really don't care what religion you are, you know. If you want to preach, preach as much as you want, okay? But the problem I have these days is because the West, and by the West, we also cannot forget the Christians, okay? Let us not kid ourselves. This is largely Christian who are pushing never-ending wars in the Middle East, who cannot stop themselves from bombing the Middle East. I am so sick of seeing Muslims getting killed, okay? And it's all because you have to bless your God's chosen people. Give me a break. God doesn't want you to be dropping bombs in the Middle East for no reason, especially when you lied, okay, to go to war. And also when these people are saying that these Muslims are barbaric and so on, they have no ability to develop their country and so on beyond oil rich country like Saudi Arabia, UAE and Qatar and so on. Again, another bullshit, because whenever there is country that have potential to be a developed economy, non-oil rich country, I'm talking about like Syria, you know, under Assad, it's either the IMF or the World Bank, I forgot which one, but I believe it is from the IMF report. The IMF report was saying that Syria under Assad, this was before the war, of course, was doing a lot of good things. And if Syria continues to do to do the same good thing, it will eventually become a developed country. But of course, Israel doesn't like it, so they have to be destroyed. You know, Turkey has so much potential to become a developed country, okay? I mean, like, it's unbelievable with all the hyperinflation going on in Turkey right now. Sorry. They still have a very developed electronics industry. They still have one of the fastest growing aerospace industry. Their drones are being like highly developed, very high tech, you know, and their engineering firms are known to be one of the best in the world. But of course, Israel doesn't like it when Muslim countries become rich, okay? So they have to destroy the Turkish economy by having the Turkish central banks printing money non-stop. Look at my video about central banks. I covered Turkey and Argentina. The current hyperinflation in Turkey is not by accident, okay? It is engineered by the central banks. And it's not even Erdogan's fault. Which I am not a fan of Erdogan, okay? I think he is corrupt. I think he is insane. But this economy, it wasn't his fault. This hyperinflation thing, wasn't his fault. It was the Turkish central bank's fault, okay? Watch my video. I even showed statistical evidence, okay? Interest rate doesn't work. Their central bank has been applying 50%, 50, not 15, 50% interest rate, okay? 50% interest rate, and supposedly it's still not enough. You need to go higher to control inflation. People in America are already complaining about 6% interest rate. Imagine 50%, okay? And it's amazing how their industry can still survive that, okay? Imagine if businesses have to pay 50% interest rate. It's crazy. And yet Turkey still has many high-tech industry. So it's amazing. Whenever there is a Muslim country that shows potential to be developed, they always get destroyed, and I'm so sick of it. Okay, I'm so sick of it. I'm so sick of seeing Muslim being killed. And to me, it is best if everybody just stays where they are and they don't have to migrate anywhere, you know. So try stopping stop bombing the Middle East. Try stop going to war on behalf of Israel. You know, your country will be way better. Okay, Europe will be way better. And I know some Christians are going to say, "Oh, Islam has wanted to invade us. Islam wanted to kill us for thousands of years." Blah blah blah. I mean, like, it's true. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It's true. But at the same time, do you think you are such angels? Do you forget how European conquered literally the entire world? Okay. Have you forgotten that you totally, what do we call, ethnically cleanse the American continent, North and South America? People don't even speak their native language anymore. They speak Spanish or Portuguese or English. So, and I'm not saying, I mean, like, I don't like to bring up historical crimes and so on, you know. Things were ugly back then, okay? I'm not saying one is more evil than the other, but whatever. My point is, Europeans and Christians, they kept on saying, oh, Muslims like to invade and go to war and so on, but take a look at the mirror. I mean, every empire goes to war. Every empire wants to expand. Look at China. Like, how huge was their empire? Look at India. They have such a huge empire. I mean, like, everybody goes to war back then, so get over it. Okay? Anyway, if you like this type of content, kindly subscribe to my channel. I do a lot of videos on global conspiracy theories, politics, and economics. And if you like this video, kindly like my channel and also leave some comment, okay? Until we see again,